Thank you for tuning into Roll Call. The movie you selected is Men in Black, starring Will Smith.
Neo Jack Swing Beat.
It's the MIBs. Welcome to Roll Call. Hey everyone. It's the show where two childless millennials gush over movies and follow an actor's journey from their early years throughout their blockbuster hits.
Because let's face it, if we were at Blockbuster, we're definitely picking out Men in Black and going, ooh, 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 Mom.
Can I get sunglasses that look like this too?
That had to be like one of the hottest rentals of that year.
Oh, absolutely.
What's up, everybody? I'm Bria, and I too would find an 8-year-old white girl in the middle of the ghetto with quantum physics books suspicious. I mean,
because if you are carrying quantum physics books, you're ready about to start some shit. And I'm Simone at 8. That's right. And I'm Simone, and I am all in today. There is some next level shit going on in this podcast, and I am okay with that.
And you should know because hopefully you listened to the intro. But in today's episode, we're talking about Will Smith in the 1997 action comedy sci-fi blockbuster of the year, Men in Black. So, Simone, let's take a trip back to July of 1997. What's going on? Oh my God, your computer's actually bouncing.
I know, yeah, I hit it for a second. All right, let's bounce with me back to July 1997. And I'm going to do a little bit different style here today with talking about pop culture. And for the sake of switching things up in between each season, I had this idea last night to talk about this particular segment. And that is all of the rad toys and merchandising that were made for this movie. And I remember I was watching it last night with Kevin, and we had a nice little walk down memory lane. He's like, definitely had the toy version of that. Yes, definitely asked my mom for this for Christmas or whatever. And so I went on a little rabbit hole exploration of the toys. Now, granted, we are going to see a Men in Black 2 in 2002, and they have a little bit more of an advanced line of toys, which we'll talk about. But let's first talk about the Galoob Collection made by the company Galoob. And Men in Black was the official toy line of the film. I mean, they kind of made a whole little special line of toys for this movie, and this line was produced by Galoob. It's this. Does that toy brand like stick out to you in any way?
No, but I did see it on Wikipedia, and I too went on a toy search of my own when I was watching the movie because I was like, oh, like, was that a toy? Like, so. Oh, yeah.
Almost everything that you can look at in this movie could have been branded as a toy, and kids would have gobbled it up. So Galoob, for those who don't know, it's not as popular as like Mattel or Milton Bradley.
Fisher Price.
Exactly. But they're famous for manufacturing micro machines, which are like die cast car vehicles, kind of like a Hot Wheels, but like they're really teeny tiny. For this first lineup, there's a total of 20 figures that were produced for the line, 6 of which were packaged as 3 separate like 2-pack sets. So you might get like J and a little vehicle or K and a little gun. The toys themselves were first released in June of 1997, so about a full month ahead of the film's release in July. Obviously doing this as a ploy to excite the children to get ready for this movie that's going to come out. And interestingly enough, that this is actually going to be one of Galoob's final releases because they go defunct a year later in 1998.
Oh, damn. So Men in Black couldn't even save them.
I know, which is kind of a bummer. But I mean, here's kind of what they had to offer. So it wasn't like the most exciting lineup, but we did have the overall line is divided up into 7 categories. So there's like the bendy figures. That's going to be your more like alien type of toy that are going to be like kind of squishy, Stretch Armstrongy like. You have your action figures. That's going to be your J and your K. Your deluxe action figures, which will be J and K, but with some kind of gun or being able to either like have some kind of a speaking line with it, or maybe even have like some detachable thing, which we'll talk about. They had ultra aliens, vehicles, micro machines. So those are going to be your like guns and neuralizers, and then role play accessories as well. Again, your neuralizer, your sunglasses. The bendable alien figures, this selection was the most affordable of the line. It had a simple 4-inch or smaller alien figure with little action figures aside. Then you had action figures called Alien Blast J, Street Striker K. So they are in their iconic like black suit outfits. Your deluxe action figures were Body Slam J, Jeebs, and Mikey. The selection comprised of bigger sets, which came at a more heftier price, probably around like $20-ish. That was the like more expensive end of the line, and that had and so that's higher than the standard action figures. So due to this fact, the figures of this section kind of possessed an elaborate action featurette, which typically had an alien revealing some kind of like gimmick, whether it was something that squirted at you or made some kind of a noise. And to accommodate for the larger size of these figures, all of these were packaged in like sturdy box windows. So those are the kinds of boxes that think of more like a Barbie doll would be in. So those would be larger. They, of course, because Galoob made micro machines. They made little micro machines of the cars. So like the cleaning crew car, the alien spaceship, the anti-pest, the pest control. Why am I thinking of the word anti? But yeah, the pest control. Those were pretty cool. And all of these toys range from like when toy collectors like talk about toys, they talk like the pricing can be kind of interesting. So it's like nostalgic to collectible. So there's like toys that we're nostalgic for, but like, maybe wouldn't pay all that much money, versus the collectible items that like really make fans salivate and would be willing to shell out a little bit more. Additionally, they also made the kind of like gun line. So that's something that Kevin had as a kid. He had one of their big blaster guns, which was also made by Galoob. It's the 4D blaster gun, and that one it wasn't a like full functioning water gun, although it looks like it would be. But it's not battery operated, but it makes like the pew 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 kind of blaster noises, I guess. And then, of course, you're going to also have a neuralizer as well, because that's probably one of the most iconic things that you can find when you think of merchandising for Men in Black. But this is also the era and decade where we see fast food dipping their little greasy, buttery fingers into kids' wallets.
Kids' parents' wallets. The infamous wallet. You got McDonald's money, you got Burger King money. Because looking at the Burger King commercial, I'm like, it was so, like, the marketing was so good, because I totally remember, like, these commercials, this commercial, Wild Wild West, other movies where you see the commercial and therefore you're like, oh, I want to see that movie. And then you're like, maybe you go see the movie and you see all the cool stuff they use. And then you're like, oh, the easiest way for you to get something similar might be a Happy Meal, which is like a 2-for-1 deal. You know, Mom, you don't have to cook, we're eating, and 2, I get a toy. Like,
I need to entertain myself after this.
Yeah, and then those toys too were like popular on the schoolyard. You know, you guys get to play Men in Black. I'm sure tons of kids, like, after seeing this movie, were running around, you know, their playgrounds like, you're an alien, pew pew, like, and stuff like that. And having the Happy Meal toy, and a Happy Meal, like, bringing a Happy Meal toy to school is like less risque than, like, say, you know, the Galoob toys where you're bringing like something your mom spent like $20 on, or you can't fit the 4D gun in your backpack. Like that's just that's getting confiscated. But maybe you can fit like the little neuralizer from Burger King in your backpack.
Man, back in the day when you can bring like a fake toy gun to school and not, even if it was mini size, but not have it be this, you know, crisis of lockdown. But yes, like Bria said, Burger King came out with a toy line, and this was for the Burger King Kids Club meal toy. This was actually released just a little bit later in 1998. There was 12 toys included in this set, which was a squishy worm guy, a squirting worm guy, which definitely, I think it's one of those like squishy toys that you would like dunk under a bowl of water and squish it, and like the water would go up its little butthole essentially. Or like a little hole in its like squeaker mouth or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you would squirt.
Yeah.
They had a building space spinner, a globe.
I feel like I had that, or at least two when I was at daycare. Like we had like a toy bin, so a lot of like Happy Meal toys would wind up in there. So it could have been like via that, where someone had it and was like, "Oh, I don't really want this."
God. But yes, dude, you just unlocked a memory of like the random discarded Happy Meal and Burger King toys that you would find in like a toy bin at someone's house,
or like the dentist or the doctor's office.
Yes.
Oh,
as
man.
I'm getting cavities for the very food that I eat, and they're like, "Would you like this Happy Meal toy?" You could also find a neuralizer in this set. These toys were cool. The slimed out K and J, so that had like the removable detachable slime that you can just like place over their head.
I looked at that last night and I was like, I kind of would want one of those. Like, and that's just the 90s kid, like, ooh, slime. Like, it's hard plastic, but like the aesthetic, you can't get better than that. Like,
no.
Oh, and then, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. That purple goose in the movie as a 90s kid was so like, exquisite.
I'm jumping ahead. These are Happy Meal toys for this second movie, I think. So never mind.
Yeah, I think McDonald's might have taken over MIB2, Electric Boogaloo. But yeah, so that's was the most thing that I found. I mean, you can find these on eBay, Etsy, and Alibaba, like wherever else you get your fun collectible toys. I don't know if this like sparked enough in me to want to like get something, but it sure was fun like looking through, because I think I had a few of those, although it wasn't a line like, you know, like the Lion King line or the Toy Story toys that like you would want to go and collect, or the cups when Disney released the goblets with the Burger King toys.
Oh my God. Collectible cups, such a vibe, right?
Yes.
Like, and watches. Simone, I'm looking on Google, and do you remember like when you would get your Happy Meal, there would kind of be like a cheat sheet of like all the toys and like a little description?
Yes, like a menu page of toys.
Yes, I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh my God, they were killing us with the marketing and the like brainwashing, because that just makes you want, you're like, oh shit, like, oh, ooh. Or walking in, if you went into the fast food restaurant, the little display, like that's the first thing you're zipping to. You're like, oh, which one am I gonna
display case? And I remember, like, especially when Teeny Beanie Babies came out, like they had to take the display case away because customers were either bothering employees too much by asking, "Well, just give me the one in the display," or they would just steal it. Because then at least that was a complete set.
Oh my, I've seen display cases of Happy Meal toys like for sale before, but anyways.
Like the whole case?
Yeah. Anyways.
Oh my gosh. If you want to hear us talk more about toys, we are going to be guesting. Who knows if that episode will have dropped by the time this one releases, but we are going to be guesting on the Everything 90s podcast, talking just about 90s versus 2000 toys. So if that kind of stuff is up your alley, give that episode a listen.
I mean, at this point, it's just like Men in Black toy hour.
I know. I should have got some ahead of time and done like an unboxing, or like a
Right?
looking at stuff. But maybe for Men in Black too. So, Bria, do you have anything you wanted to add on your special pop culture corner?
Pop, pop, pop. Yeah. So I just want to say too that if anyone knows how to get access to like magazine archives, let me know, because Will Smith is on a ton of magazines, obviously, by this time. He's blowing it up as a movie star, not just a rapper. So he's also like crossed over to magazines like GQ and Newsweek. So he was on Newsweek with Tommy Lee Jones, and I was able to read that article, but I really wanted to read his GQ article, but I can't find access to that without like having some kind of fancy smancy like New York library card or something like that. So of course I just looked at Vibe and Jet again. So in July of 1997, Will is not on the cover of Vibe, but in 98 we'll get a Will cover, so I'm excited to read and look through that. But I did look through Vibe, and there's some interesting stuff in there. So on the cover is none other than R&B sultry queen herself, Toni Braxton. She's like kind of naked, which was like a big deal, and in it she infamously talks about sex and stuff, which for her and her image at the time was like, scandalous. Well, not scandalous, but just like, oh my God, like, because she grew up very religious, so this was like not really that expected of her. But there's this funny like little corner on like a page that's like Vibes Illuminati Watch. And it just makes me laugh because for me, the Illuminati was more thought of alongside like YouTube for me, which was like my exposure to that was like people being like Beyonce and Jay-Z are in the Illuminati and YouTube videos on that. But to see it in a magazine in the 90s, and in this one, it's none other than comedian Sinbad of all people.
Okay.
So it's just like, that's so funny and stupid and weird that they have this little like corner article like thing. But basically they're like, Sinbad's everywhere and he's like kind of not that funny, but I guess he's marketable. And I think Sinbad's funny. I remember him in A Different World, and I loved the movie House Guest, but he's not raunchy funny either, so I feel like that's part of it. But they're just like, yeah, like we can't escape him, so he must be the Illuminati. And later on, I think in Vibe or in Jet, he's in like an ad for something. So I thought that was funny. I was like, I guess they were onto something. But and then I looked at like, instead of the top 100 just in general, but the top R&B songs of 97. So obviously we talked about Biggie passing and Tupac passing the last episode. So by this time this year, Puff Daddy and Faith Evans redo I'll Be Missing You by The Police and do it in honor of Biggie as like a tribute song to him. So that's like the #1 R&B song at the time. Then we have, again, Janet Jackson with her song Together Again. Young Usher jumping on the scene finally with You Make Me Wanna.
Oh, that was 97.
Yes. I remember that video. That was one of those videos where I was like, ooh, look at this boy, and he's cute. Like, of course, Will Smith, Men in Black, #4, which I'm kind of confused by this list because it's R&B, but there's rap and hip-hop songs on this list, which just goes to show you how poorly categorized music was and still can be at times. And then, of course, we have, again, Puff Daddy with Can't Nobody Hold Me Down, the Notorious B.I.G. with Hypnotize, LSG with My Body, Drew Hill with In My Bed, Destiny's Child, No, No, No. So that was their first big single, cracking the top 10. And then Notorious B.I.G. again, no, Mo Money, Mo Problems, which... talk about a word. And then I looked through Jet. On the cover of Jet are twin sisters, Patricia and Pamela I don't think their last name's McGee, but I know one of them because her son played on the Warriors, JaVale McGee, if you happen to know who that is. And so that's cool. But inside, there's a picture of Will attending the Men in Black premiere with his son Trey and his nephew. And they had their little Men in Black guns and glasses and suits. So it's really cute. And then the next page is Chris Rock and his wife. So you can't escape. Like, I just feel like they're like this weird pairing that just keeps popping up like throughout the years, and I'm interested to see how many more times we see them in association with each other.
Yes.
Okay, so looking through Jet, I also found this like very 90s ad. The great 1 cent movie deal. Choose any 7 movies for 1 cent. So some of those movies are Space Jam, The Preacher's Wife, The Nutty Professor, Set It Off with Jada Pinkett Smith. And I just was like, man, what a time. Oh, Independence Day is on here. That's why I stopped and screenshotted it. But I was like, oh, that's what a time. 7 movies for a penny.
They had similar promos like that for like our parents when they were collecting vinyl and stuff as kids, and cassettes, and they did CDs, you know, so there's a market for it.
And then Will's also in Jet. They have a little feature on him signing a new record deal with Columbia, which is how the Men in Black single was released. And then albums in Jet for this year is Life After Death, Notorious B.I.G., God's Property from Kirk Franklin's New Nation, I'm 'Bout It by various artists. I'm guessing this is like a mixtape probably. Share My World by Mary J. Blige, super amazing R&B album. And For the People, the Boot Camp Click. No clue who that is, but I'm going to drop in number 6, Baduism by Erykah Badu, which is a classic. And yeah, that's all I've got for Black pop culture. We're still mourning B.I.G. at this point and lots of stuff like that. So, and Will's the cover boy, big movie star on so many magazine covers. So
yes, I second that. If anyone listening has connections to like old magazines, that would be super fun to get some of those.
Which, like, I took for granted with Jennifer Lopez, fan sites for women will have so much of, like, the scans of, like, their interviews and stuff, and not so much for the guys. So somebody needs to go on eBay, buy some of these Will Smith magazines and scan away. So
make an archive.
Yeah.
Someone's got to preserve history. All right. Well, Men in Black was released July 2nd, 1997. In addition to that release, it was also released with the movie Wild America with Devon Sawa and Jonathan Taylor Thomas. That was a movie that my mom loved to watch. We owned that on multiple platforms. We also have we have the Japanese version of Shall We Dance, which, as we know, will later be remade with our sweetheart J-Lo, but the Japanese version of it made its debut, and we know that Lil Raj was a big fan of that. We also have A Simple Wish starring oh gosh, I'm going to say Matilda, but I know that's not her first
Mara
name.
Wilson.
Thank you so much. We have B. Frage in George of the Jungle. We know that we're loving this Renaissance era, so that is an iconic movie. He's very scantily clad. He's also very ripped in that movie. I'm not going to read every single one, but Good Burger was released July 25th, 1997. I will never forget your iconic outfit for Halloween.
I forgot about that kind of. That was a good one. That's probably one of my best adult costumes.
Mm-hmm. We have Air Force One starring Harrison Ford. And we have 187 starring Samuel L. Jackson. We have Air Bud coming at the curtails of July. That's the movie
Air
that made
Bud.
me gasp. You know, everyone's favorite basketball playing golden retriever, and then the millions of other movies that were released too. I can't get over it. Anyways, those
Talk
were
about
some
a
of the-
franchise, though. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh man, who would
Yeah.
think?
People just love watching dogs playing sports, myself included.
And kids
then-
like animal movies, like Cats and Dogs, like that was big.
And Air Bud, if I remember, now granted, if I watch Air Bud, I'll still find something to cry about. But Air Bud is not like a Homeward Bound or Fox and the Hound situation. It's like a very much more lighthearted. I feel like the only thing that would make me cry is like they didn't let him play in the final movie or something. Or the final game, and Air Bud has to like sit and watch. Although there is a wild scene in Air Bud where like a full-grown child like tackles the dog because the dog they're like, all right, fine, if you're gonna play the dog, we're gonna like play with it like it's a real person. So they had to film, like, obviously it was a dummy dog, but like someone like tackled and rolled, and then Air Bud like limps off to the side.
And the fact that they made so many of those movies when animals and kids are like notoriously hard to work with because of like just getting an animal to do what you want it to do, and then kids have like work restrictions.
Kid acting's hard enough as it is, but like to act around an animal is tough.
So what a moment, Air Bud.
Air Bud and the club getting tipsy.
Oh my god.
So, all right, Bria, just talking about the toys alone, I figured that this movie probably had done pretty well. So hit us with some box numbers, please.
Are you ready?
Yes, box office numbers, I should say.
You might want to put a seatbelt on.
Uh-oh. Okay.
The budget of this movie is estimated at $90 million. And the more that we do this, like saying these numbers, it's wild that we have this. And I know it's a business, they make money back, all that stuff. But it's wild that we have this money for movies, but not like to better human existence and life and whatnot. But
pay off student debt,
Nevertheless, Columbia Pictures, or wherever this movie was made, decided, hey, here's 90 mil for this Alien movie.
This was Amblin Entertainment, so like Steven Spielberg executive produced
Right,
this.
okay, yes, I knew that. I just didn't, I think I was thinking that Will Smith's record deal coincided with the movie, but
right,
yes, you're right. Because he has a story about how he got a call from Steven Spielberg, and we'll talk about that later. But the gross in U.S. and Canada was $250.6 million. Not bad, right? Worldwide, $589 million, and opening weekend was $51 million. So,
Cha-ching, Men in Black. Good job.
I think it's the top 3 grossing movie of 97. I'm assuming your favorite Titanic is number 1. And then going on to Vogue, House of Little Raj. Simone, what do you think Lil Raj gave Men in Black?
I think he rated it higher than Independence Day. I think if I remember, if memory serves me, he gave Independence Day like 2 or 2.5. Because he kept on asking all those questions, but he's like, I know I shouldn't ask questions, but I still have them anyways. But then at the very end, he's like, listen, I take this movie for like the iconic Americana that it is and will become. And so for that, it like works. Like I forgive a lot of the plot holes. So Men in Black, I feel like had less plot holes than Independence Day might. And then oh, your facial expression is so I think he gave this, but would he give this 3 out of 4 stars? Fuck it, I'm going with it. He gave Men in Black 3 stars.
Yes, as I take my sip of James Lipton tea. Yes, 3 stars for Men in Black.
Bing, bing, bing.
There's lots of plot description in his review, but I do find the intro kind of funny, where it's like, there's a moment in Men in Black wherein a grim government official shows a wall chart of every alien on Earth. We're not too surprised to see some of the faces on display. Sylvester Stallone, Al Roker, Newt Gingrich, Dionne Warwick. When the movie comes out on video, I'll use freeze frames to capture the rest. So garage is already
pause
starting off. Like, let me make a note of who else.
He scribbled those names down real quick in that movie theater. He's like, oh, shit.
So he goes on to say, wicked little side jokes like that are the heart and soul of Men in Black, or MIB, as it's already being called, no doubt in the movie title as software tradition of ID4. He talks a lot about the special effects and, you know, talks about obviously that throwing like these $100 million budgets doesn't necessarily make for serious movies or great movies, especially with special effects and stuff. But I think he really liked that Men in Black didn't take itself serious. Like, it could have very well been like this serious, kind of like Independence Day a little bit, this serious...
I felt like Independence Day took itself too seriously.
Yeah, like this serious government entity, kind of like the X-Files too, you know, government entity that has all this information on aliens, keeping track of them and all this stuff. But like later on in some interviews, but like the fun parts of this movie and the lighthearted parts, the comedy, the aliens are funny and not too like serious or stuff like that is like what makes this movie enjoyable. So he also points out like the running gag in the movie is that almost anyone can be an alien, and points out again the special effects. He says, there were times I thought we were seeing the new Seven Dwarfs, slimy, gooey, icky, creepy, sticky, barfy, and pox. about the array of aliens in this movie. But I think the part that stuck out in his review for me the most was the end where he kind of sums it up and stuff, and he says, you know, the movie makes good of a lot of New York landmarks, but director Barry Sonnefield, and I'm like kind of paraphrasing here because he talks more about the landmarks, but director Barry Sonnefield shows a cheerful willingness in the movie's first hour or so to completely cut loose from all the conventions of dreary storytelling and simply let the story follow the laughs and absurdities. Writer Ed Solomon, who on the basis of his irreverent screenplay could probably play all three of the critics on MST3, deflates one sci-fi pomposity for another. When the plot finally does click in, it slows down the trajectory a little, but not fatally. Men in Black continues the summer's tradition already established by Con Air and Batman of big-budget action pictures that at least have the wit to know how silly they are. So, again, that goes to show that, you know, he appreciates this movie probably a little bit more than Independence Day because it's able to be silly and goofy, and it's not like this very serious alien invasion story.
Yes. I think this movie, one of the biggest differences between Men in Black and Independence Day is that this was a comedy. This was not a kids movie, which rewatching it last night, I was like, this is kind of scary for a kids movie. I saw this in theater. Kevin saw this in theater, and he was like, I remember being like a little terrified of some of the creatures, and especially Vincent Deonafrio's character, 6 Degrees of, wearing the skin suit. And so like he like bends a dude in half. So it's like it's kind of scary. But anyways, I digress. I mean, this movie at least aims to be somewhat funny, whereas Independence Day doesn't, but it still kind of ends up being a little funny because of the way that it like takes itself a little too seriously.
Yeah. So like what would you give? How many pumps of butter are you giving Men in Black?
I would also give Men in Black 3 stars. I don't have that, like, I think I gave Independence Day 4 because I was like, this reminds me, it's just like a 4th of July tradition.
Nostalgia.
It's nostalgia. But I apologize. I said 3 stars. I would give Men in Black 3 pumps of butter. It is, I remember too, at the theater, they had a special popcorn tub for this one. I think it was all black, and it just said MIB on it. It might have had their faces. It might have looked like your green screen behind you.
There's probably a cup too. Ah, man. See, look at that too, like movie theaters getting in on the merch.
Yes. We definitely have the Titanic popcorn bucket. That's for sure. And I kept onto it for a while until it just looked so gross. But anyways, I didn't pick out a lot of flaws in the plot. It was fun to watch, also a little creepy, scary. There were some like physical comedy moments from Will's character, which we'll get into. The practical effects, there are some that really stand out to today and would pass, I think, in like 2022 standpoint of, or standards of movie effects. Obviously, there's some CGI that doesn't hold up quite so well, but overall, it's a fun movie to go back and watch, and it was one that I was really looking forward to cover today.
Yeah, I too would give 3 pumps in my jumbo souvenir bucket with my black Ray-Bans on for this movie. I was telling you earlier that I feel like I remember parts of this movie, but I don't have a distinct memory of watching it and going to see it or something of that nature. But it did feel very nostalgic, and it does cross these lines, as I feel like good movies and good blockbusters, good family movies do, where there's like clearly stuff for the kiddos and then clearly stuff for the adults. And so watching this and feeling like I've seen stuff as a kid, and those are the things that I like vaguely remember, are like the things I feel like that were funny as a kid, or like oh, that was icky and gross and stuff. And then as an adult, like peeping the more serious stuff, or like the little nuggets about other things in there that you're like, oh hey, or like seeing the World Trade Center and be like, oh damn, like
there were a lot of looming shots of the Twin Towers in this.
Yeah, so stuff like that you pick up as an adult, and Jay getting hit on by the coroner and being like super awkward. But I think that I liked this more than Independence Day because it is fun. Like we already said, that Independence Day does have like this serious tone to it, kind of, and it has jokes, but Men in Black is just completely, even though, and that's the brilliance of like Tommy Lee Jones, even though he plays the straight man, there's something so funny about like how deadpan he is, and how goofy Will is, and how animated he is in comparison to him. And
yeah, Tommy Lee's character, and we'll get more into this, but you so nailed it when you said the word deadpan. It's like so dry, sarcastic that if you weren't really paying attention, you may not know that it was actually a funny line that he was delivering.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, this movie just has so many nostalgic things, but so many good things that are missing from movies nowadays. I feel like for some reason, and I can't quite pinpoint them all, but it just works. It's just, I would, if as of recently, if they were re-showing this in theaters, I would totally go buy a ticket and be like, hey, give me a jumbo tub and like watch this on the big screen again for funsies, because it's just that, it's that kind of movie like that you really want to watch in theaters and experience. So there's my long ass opinion. Should we talk about the trailer? Okay, let's talk about the trailer.
The trailer is one of those really great ones of like, in a world where we have like the movie phone voice dubbing over this commercial. There are a few released. There's like a main trailer, a teaser trailer, and then I found some good like promo VHS commercials, like
and DVD.
VHS and DVD, which was very fun.
I think the trailer for me, I watched a lot of the teaser trailers for content purposes too, but those I really liked because it like gives an essence kind of what this movie is about in this serious kind of tone, but this movie isn't that serious either. And I think too, a big twist that if I saw the trailer, I wouldn't anticipate is that this is basically like Jay's on the job job interview, on the job training, his first day on the job. Like, you get the sense that, oh, okay, it's like a 007 movie, but with like alien government agencies, kind of, where, you know, adventures, shit's gonna happen. But the fact that we get to follow like him learning about Men in Black and like aliens, and then interviewing for the job, getting it, and then being on the job with Kay and learning more stuff on the job training, like, that's not something I would expect, and it's very rare, I feel like, in movies like this. So I feel like that's what makes this special. But that's a good nugget they held from the trailers of this movie.
Agreed. And a lot of exposition of the story was told through and like given to both the audience and to Jay, right? So it was nice that like when you're watching the trailer, you would think that like these two guys have been working together for a while and that their relationship's already established and that they're just discovering that aliens are existing among us in Manhattan, New York. But that's not the case. And like so much of the first half of this movie is this relationship building of this kind of buddy cop movie, in a weird sense, an alien buddy cop movie. And yeah, you're so right. We wouldn't know from the trailer that it was Will Smith's like first day on the job training, getting to know the ropes of things. And you would think it's something that they have like known how to do for all of this time. So I like that the trailer, you know what kind of movie you're going to watch, but it still leaves a lot to the imagination and you discover a lot of stuff for the first time.
Yeah, I'm refreshing myself with the trailer. And there are moments where you get a sense that Will's newish, you know, but you don't get the sense that like there's no, this guy was an NYPD cop, then he found out about like, or got recruited. Like, it's just like him asking all these...
He got tangled up with the wrong perpetrator. A perpetrator from outer space.
That would have been fun. There's like moments of him like, you know, getting pieces of the technology or going to MIB and asking like Tommy Lee Jones questions where it's like, we have all this, like when they get in the car, we have all this tech, but like this is what we're driving. Like those little moments where it's like it shows that he doesn't know a lot, but at the same time, like I still feel like in the teasers more so, like that was a good nugget that they held back about like that's part of the fun of this movie. But yeah, easy, great marketing that it's like, of course I'm gonna go see this. Take my money.
Yes. And I think the trailer makes it seem a lot more comedic. It doesn't really show some of the, I don't want to say horror, but it doesn't show some of the more like gruesome parts of it, obviously. And so watching the trailer, you're like, okay, yeah, makes sense for it to be a kid's movie. But then thinking back and rewatching it, you're like, maybe more of like a older teen movie than like 7-year-old me going to the theater and watching an alien de-skin a human. But it makes you think, who among us could be an alien? Who's wearing the skin?
Yeah, there's like the big bug alien of the movie is not really in the trailer, so that doesn't get given away. But you have like the cute little alien in the head that's in there, and then Tony Shalhoub's character, which his head gets like shrunk and, you know, grows back. So there's some aliens, but they're not the big grossy kind. Or even in the beginning where they show those like sheriff border patrol dudes getting like the gunk on them, you don't see like the gross alien really that much in there. So they cleverly held some stuff back that, especially in terms of creatures and special effects, that would be like nice surprises in the movie. But yeah, let's talk about the cast. And I too would like to talk about the director a little bit, because he also directed, you know, another childhood favorite, the Addams Family movies. Bobby Sonnenfeld was tapped for this movie, and then I forget his name, but the director for Miracle on 34th Street, the remake of that, he also was in the running, but they wound up being like, and they waited for Barry Sonnenfeld. They waited for Barry Sonnenfeld to finish his movie Get Shorty so that he could direct Men in Black. So I think his direction, he seemed to have a very clear vision of what he wanted in this movie, and I think it is part of the success of this movie, especially given that you have someone like Steven Spielberg to attach. Like, you know, you have to have a solid ass director to go along with a big, huge, iconic director's production company like that. But one of his biggest contributions, I think, was setting it in New York.
Yeah.
And that and Will Smith. But setting it in New York was his idea because he thought that, you know, it would be easy for aliens to blend in and be weird, but kind of human, you know, under these human disguises, and no one would like think anything of it in a city like New York. Whereas like if you had like an alien in a small town in Kansas, like maybe people would be like, that one guy is really weird and off, but they would be nosy about it probably.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
just like, okay, whatever. You know, New Yorkers are so like on the run that it just makes sense. And so that I thought was really interesting that was his choice. And then Will Smith, he says that his wife suggested Will. And so he had already had the idea to have Tommy Lee Jones as Kay. And so that happened fairly quickly. But then Will's name was out there, and then the studio also was like, oh yeah, Will's a good, and maybe Keanu and maybe Chris O'Donnell. But
Okay.
he was like, no, my wife wants Will Smith. And so they made it happen. And then, yeah, we talk about the other important cast people.
Yeah. So, in addition to Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith, we have Linda Fiorentino, who plays the character Laurel. She's the morgue, or not the morgue, but the employee that works at the morgue who starts to catch on after she starts dissecting so many curious creatures. But her character kind of ends up becoming the love interest. We have Vincent Deonafrio, who we know is our favorite masochistic daddy from The Cell.
Your favorite.
Sorry, let me rephrase. My favorite. To prepare for this role as Edgar, he wore like knee braces and like taped up his ankles so that he would like purposefully kind of walk funny as if he were in someone else's skin. We have Rip Torn, who plays Zed, who's kind of the head of the MIB Corporation, or the INS Division 6. As they call it. Rip Torn he passed away a few years ago, but he was also in the movie Dodgeball. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. He's been in like a bunch of stuff. Tony Shalhoub, as you mentioned, Bria, who plays Jeebs, and there is a special like Jeebs character toy set that kind of comes not with like all of his trinkets, but just he's almost like standing behind a little like counter with things, and he ran the weapon shop. They called it a pawn shop, but in behind all of the trinkets is where he had all the fancy alien gadgets.
That's the toy that was like left that your mom was like, look, this is all they got. You want this or nothing?
Yeah. It's like in Jingle All the Way. It was like the sidekick doll that nobody wanted that they had plenty of.
Boomer, I think, right?
Yeah.
Was the
those were the big names that I picked out. Was there anyone else that I'm forgetting, Bria?
I don't think so. I mean, there's so many different people in this movie, and aliens and agents and whatnot, but those are the main like big ones. I watched Monk in quarantine, which was like not really the smartest thing for me to do. It probably just made me even more paranoid.
Because he was like a germaphobe, right? Like he had like some kind of OCD, yeah.
Yes, and man, definitely was not no. But seeing him and seeing like a younger him in this movie, I was like, oh shit. Vincent Deonafrio, so unrecognizable in the makeup they had him in, which is crazy because I feel like going into this, I knew he was in it, but to see the guy that he took over his body, like, is somebody else. Like, I thought it would be him, and then they switched it to, like, him in this prosthetic, which is supposed to be like he's wearing his skin. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
damn, he's like one of those underrated like character actors that just like nails these like
Yeah.
not starring roles but super important character you know,
Yes.
in these movies like this in The Cell. And it's just
Yes.
like, somebody give this man an award. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I want to see him in more stuff. I mean, he was in Jurassic World, he was in the Daredevil series, but like you don't see him too much now, but I feel like when he was younger, he took on more of these like I don't know if controversial is the right part, but you're right, these like body mod creepy kind of out there roles. And he really did have, so he took over, his job was like a pesticide person, right? And like a farmer. So like him and his wife. And granted, he's not the nicest person to begin with. Like he's kind of an asshole, very abusive, like verbally abusive and probably physically husband, right? But when he gets taken over by this bug alien, he is also, or no, he isn't a pesticide person, but he like takes over a pesticide truck and he kills the guy who's doing bug work at their house because
Yeah.
he's kind of like Oogie Boogie, right? Like he's like made of bugs, right? So the pesticide person comes to his house and he like jams the gas like down his throat, kills that guy, and then he's just kind of like crawling with bugs. So wherever he goes, he'll like, you know, shake his sleeve and fucking cockroaches will come out of it. And he really did that. He, like, for reading in for some of the making of, he had no problem like having some cockroaches up his sleeve and then just like shaking them out.
Yeah, he like watched a lot of bug documentaries
Yes.
to like also figure out his walk. He also goes on to voice the bugs in the animated series, which is another fucking genius marketing point of trapping the children in this potential franchise, because I remember the cartoon.
Yes.
Like
yes. And it's like, oh, you have a movie that did like pretty well commercially. Let's make a cartoon of it. Let's grip these millennials by the balls harder than we already have them.
Yes, and it was in like that amazing lineup on like WB Kids with like the Batman the series and Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain and all these amazing cartoon shows. Beetlejuice is another movie where it's like, I don't know who was like, hey, kids love this. Like, let's make a cartoon about it. But it worked. And we still love it. But yeah, just amazing acting by him. And then I just want to shout out Rip Torn's name, because that's a hell of a name.
It is a hell of a name. Yes.
And then Mr. Tommy Lee Jones, like such a legend himself. You could tell that Will was excited to work with someone of his caliber in his interviews, because he always mentions like, oh yeah, Tommy Lee Jones, Oscar winner, like, and you can tell Will was still like, you know, kind of getting used to being in that company and stuff and still new to this, whereas I'm sure as we go on later on, he's going to be the vet and the pro, and people are going to be like, oh my god, it was crazy, like I grew up watching Will Smith and now I get to work with him. And but in the interviews for this, he's that person that's like, oh my god, Tommy Lee Jones is just like so funny and so good, and you know, it's a pleasure working with him and all this stuff. But Tommy Lee Jones, I feel like he's such a Oscar winner, and he had been such like a kind of serious actor. I think it's kind of interesting to see someone like that in a big cheesy movie like this, you know. But he still is like, again, the straight man. He's not like super duper like slap on your knee funny, just like quietly funny.
Yes. I have to look up, because he was Two-Face in one of the Batman movies, which was right around this time.
Yeah.
It was the one
is that?
Let's see.
I feel like it's a Michael Keaton Batman, right?
It is.
But I think it's the second one.
It was in Batman Forever. So this was 95. So it was the same one with Jim Carrey as the Riddler, and Val Kilmer was still Batman.
Yeah.
We see Chris O'Donnell as
Oh, he was also
Nicole
in
Kidman.
Volcano.
Yes, he was. My least favorite disaster movie ever.
Yeah, that I watched with because it was like really big at the box office when we did J-Lo. And I was like, what the hell? But anyways, Batman Forever is classic because Jim
Yes.
Carrey, the Riddle, like
Yes.
Riddler,
And-
my bad.
And okay, so really quick side note, do you want to hear a funny story? I'm not going to give you an option because I'm just going to tell it. And maybe it's not even that funny, but I was just in Ohio and I was hanging out with my cousin who's in 8th grade. He's my youngest cousin. And he saw the new Batman movie, and the like villain in the Batman is the Riddler, but it's a very scary Riddler. And he's like almost like the Zodiac Killer meets like Jigsaw from the Saw movies. And Peter and I were talking about that, and I was like, oh yeah, well, like I wasn't expecting the Riddler to be as like dark and scary because the Riddler that I grew up with was Jim Carrey, and so it was like very comical and comic booky. And he was just like, oh, why does that name sound so familiar? I was like, well, like Ace Ventura, like Bruce Almighty, like The Mask, Dumb and Dumber. Like I'm just like naming all of these movies, and he was just like, nah, it's not ringing a bell. And so I show him a picture, and he goes, oh, you mean like the bad guy from the new Sonic movie? And I was like, yes, that person is who I'm talking about.
Oh, man. I will never figure out the puzzle that is the next generation. And, I like to think highly of our generation in terms of
too.
knowing
Yes.
who the people that came before our stars.
It's the
Yeah.
respect that was so ingrained in us to like you need to have the knowledge to know the people who paved the way.
And I feel like part of that too is just the way we consume media now. It's so individualistic. Like, before you would go to the movies with your parents, or, movie night, you're watching the movie that your parents picked, and then, we'll watch the movie you picked. And then the music, you're listening to what your parents listen to in the car. You don't just get to like go on Apple Music and listen to whatever the fuck you want to listen to. Like,
Right.
you're going to listen to this oldie station because this is the music I liked. And you grow an appreciation for that stuff. But yeah, kids nowadays they could just stream whatever, whenever. And so, they're only focused on what's being peddled to them too. Also the algorithms that these things have, where it's like, hey, you watch this, or you listen to this. But
Yeah.
know your legends, man. Like, how do
No.
also, as a kid, like, it baffles me that, like, I don't know, that parents or kids don't watch older kids movies, like, because yeah, they're different decades or time periods, but like they're still just like funny. Like I remember watching like older, like I love Brat Pack movies. Am I an 80s teenager or kid? No, but it's just like it's a teenager movie. Like,
Yes. Or that's like what was taught as being a classic movie, and you need to know your like foundational baseline of classics before you can graduate onto like that was like your oh god, I want to like say a scientific term, but that's like your line of
reference?
equilibrium. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's like your reference line of like to know the classic movies first before you can judge the new
Yeah.
movies. But no, you have a good point. Anyways, I'll cut that. But it
This
just
is
it
us
cracked
yelling
me
at
up.
the kids to get off our lawn.
Get off our lawn, Gen Zers, and have respect for Jim Carrey, for Christ's sakes. But anyways, yes, this is a fun cast, and Tommy Lee certainly like it is Oscar nominated, but also an Academy Award winning, in addition to being like brandable and marketable for kids movies as well, for being in Batman and Men in Black and Men in Black sequels and stuff like that. So it's cool. He's got some good range.
Yeah, looking at his career on IMDb now, it's clear that there's like this after The Fugitive, there's this like kind of commercial switch that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I feel like sometimes a lot of actors, you know, they kind of chase the award baity movies for a while, and then they're like, okay, cool, I won an Oscar, I won whatever, I won a SAG award or Tony or whatever, and now I'm here for these checks. Like I'm trying to have fun and do some fun movies and not
Right.
be so like serious all the time.
Because as we know, we're only getting older, right? So maybe like this was a good time for Tommy Lee to make that kind of switch to do more like younger films with a younger audience. Not to like rebrand himself, but to just to do something a little different, a little bit less serious.
Yeah.
Because and one thing that is so iconic to me about Tommy Lee Jones is that like his face is so recognizable. Even when he was young, he was one of those guys that did kind of look a little bit old. He has very like carved lines in his face. But I was cracking up in the beginning of Men in Black. It goes out to with his partner to Arizona because they got wind of an alien who was trying to like border cross or whatever, and his partner, who was played by Richard Hamilton. His partner's name was D. Richard Hamilton is like noticeably older than Tommy Lee, and he passed away. This actor passed away in 2004, but he was born in 1920. But he was in like a bunch of like cowboy kind of movies. But anyways, he was like next to like I was kind of cracking up because standing next to Tommy Lee, it made Tommy Lee look like the young one of the group, which I feel like is kind of rare to see. Since I was a kid, this was probably Batman Forever might have been my first exposure to a Tommy Lee movie, then Men in Black, then going back in time to watch like The Fugitive and stuff like that, right? So like
you can't blame your nephew or your cousin because
I can't because of course like we watch this with my parents like in the theater, and they're in it for, you know, Tommy Lee, and I'm in it for Will Smith and the toys and the popcorn bucket, right? But I don't know. I kind of laughed because I was like looking at them together. I was like, oh, they're making him look like the young one, and then he gets a younger partner, and then, anyways.
But yeah, should we summarize Men in Black so we can?
Oh, have we not already?
No.
Oh boy.
Well, okay. You know what? I feel like in the review, like if you don't fucking know what this movie is about, then like, go Google it. That's on you, okay?
It's our second Alien movie of the week. It's more comedy. The premise of this is versus like aliens attacking. There are people that willingly know that aliens are out there existing among us and dispersed in the billions of people that live in this world. And there is a FBI division that works with like intergalactic relations to like keep the peace between the humans and the alien species out there, and there are some bad eggs or bad bugs that come to attack Earth. Again, Manhattan is always the punching bag, I feel like, pre 9/11 of a lot of disaster movies because it's an easy target. And that's it. Will Smith and Tommy Lee partner together to kick some alien butt and save the galaxy, which is in a cat.
Well, in a charm on a cat.
In a charm on a cat.
But yeah, that's a pretty solid summary.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Will in Men in Black and the movie in general. I too think, you know, I think Independence Day definitely had his funny moments, but there were more serious moments in that. And this one is just straight, like, kind of goofy, funny, cocky Will Smith.
Yes. He's also not sharing the screen with two other lead actors. I feel like Independence Day is really split between Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum, and Will Smith. And this one, it's clearly just the two of them having their time. So he obviously had more speaking lines, more screen time, and more dialogue.
Yeah. And I personally made note of some of his appearances because
Like his fits.
Yes.
Yes, let's talk about some outfits.
I personally, his first two outfits, I was like, oh hey. And two, his haircut, like his fade and his waves in this movie, like the boy is dipping, swimming, like his haircut is amazing. Like I felt like that Mad TV skit where it's like the back of your head is ridiculous, like 'cause he's in the interrogation room and you like there's a shot of the back of his head and I was just like his haircut's so crisp. But anyways, his outfit. So his first outfit, he's like in this kind of white t-shirt jersey type thing, and it seems like he's got an orange jumpsuit, but it's like tied around his waist.
Yes.
And he's NYPD. He's chasing a perp. He just looks good. Like he's got the badge hanging around him. He's running with a gun, a la Bad Boys, but shirt on. But he just looked really good. Like,
he did, and I noted it down. I was like, I'm just like I'm getting tired just watching him as he's chasing the perp down. The perp is an alien, and so he's like scaling walls up to the top. So Will's like, what the fuck? So he like breaks into this building, and it's like a circular style building where he's just running these like circular laps up and up and up and up and up, and then just casually stands by the door and goes, what's up? And like as if he's not out of breath. I'm like very athletic watching this movie.
Yeah, he's just so cool. Like, and I feel like that just is going to be pretty continuous for a lot of his movies. Like Will Smith is just pretty good at, you know, being cool and smooth and also weird and goofy in movies. But
yes. We also get a great line from this scene. He's like, NYPD, also known as knock your punk ass down.
Yeah, I wrote that down. That was funny. Which as a kid probably would have like went over my head, but as an adult, you know, that was probably in there for us. So I was like and then why am I looking at my notes for Independence Day?
The second outfit is it the red jacket?
Yes, when he goes to interview for
Kay gives him like a very basic business card and tells tells Will Smith to go to this address, and it's like a nondescript address. And so it's basically a job interview, and there's all these other men dressed up in like military uniforms, kind of like what he was wearing last movie in Independence Day. But then Will rolls up in like some nice blue jeans, a kind of red metallic jacket, oversized jacket, and a white shirt. And that it's like simple, but it's so cool.
Yeah, in 90s. It reminds me of like his outfits from The Fresh Prince too, like towards the end of it. He's also wearing Tim's, which is like a New York staple.
The Tim's looks really cool.
But yeah, it just looks good in that outfit. I will say the next outfit where he's got the job and they're showing him around like headquarters and stuff is kind of a miss. I think the top is fine because also I noticed like a really popular GIF when he's like, oh damn, like when that bouncy thing's just bouncing around. Like he looks like the top looks fine by itself, but he's like wearing these like very bright yellow motorcycle looking pants.
Yes, and kind of like motorcycle or like motocross. Dirt bike.
And yeah, that one just didn't work so much for me, but very 90s.
Totally. A lot of his oversized pants, especially the orange jumpsuit and then those the yellow, black, and red pants kind of reminded me of parachute pants. And that's something that I've definitely fucked with in the 90s and early 2000s. I got them from Hot Topic, baby, but like, you know, Janko pants were so big, I feel like everything was kind of like baggy and oversized.
Yeah. I feel like black people didn't wear Jinko as much as like at that time probably like FUBU is getting big, Mecca, A lot of hip hop brands, Woo Wear. When I was looking through Vibe, like lugs, boots were everywhere. But yeah, his outfits were so good. I was like, it kind of sucks that like once he joins Men in Black, he's regulated to just the suit. Like it kind of would have been dope if he could have been plain clothes. Yeah. But you know, that's the title of the movie, and that's their whole shtick. Also from the opening of the movie, I thought, like, can you imagine Will Smith just dropping onto your like tour bus? Like one of those open deck double decker tour buses he like jumps onto. And I was like, how wild would that be in real life? That's happening. I probably wouldn't, but those are those like very kitschy moments where you're just like, oh my god.
That's a very fun, like, stereotypical action movie choice of someone, you know, and I don't want to say every day, but a cop in New York, obviously they've seen some shit, right? Like they're a little bit New York tough, but even so, a police officer, like, you know, watching a bus go by and standing on an overpass being like, yeah, I can make that, and just confidently like jump off. That was funny.
Yeah, and then too, his interview part was super funny. Because again, he clearly stands out in this outfit, but also like, you know, these are military dudes, they're all pretty quiet and stark, and so he's like, hey, like, what are we here for? And then this kiss ass he's like, okay, Captain America, is like, you know, stands up and like talks very like military properly. Sir, yes, we're here to be because we're the best of the best of the best, sir. And he's just like, what is his problem?
Yes.
But also, I just found that scene super physically funny because they're all in these egg chairs.
The use of the space and the like props around them, that was good. We haven't seen that of Will Smith too much.
Yeah, they're all in these egg chairs and they get like this assessment paper test, and so they're all trying to like take it on their leg, take it, like put it inside the chair and like on the wall of the chair, and he breaks his pencil, and then he's like trying to use the broken pencil, and then finally he's just like, you know what, and then he gets up and pulls the table towards him, and then he's like, hey, you want in on this, to the Captain America guy. And I was like, yes, I mean, hello, thinking outside the box, using your brain. That was probably a plus point for him, or they were just like, okay, I guess. But I was just like, why would you expect anybody to take a test in an egg chair with like out of surface? So
not even a clipboard.
Yeah,
I feel like that's part of the test. They want to see how they're gonna react.
Yeah, part of me was like, I would stand up and take it on the chair, like behind it, like, you know, standing up and writing using the chair as a writing tool. But I also didn't see that fancy ass futuristic table, so I thought his performance overall, it was just funny and typical Will Smith shenanigans. Anything else you want to talk specifically about Will, or interviews? And
so there were two I couldn't find any like talk show interviews for this, although I'm sure they exist. The ones that I pulled were both like press junkets that he did for this, and kind of similar to what you said, like really chalks up this role of a fun opportunity to have to be with Tommy Lee. But it's clear that the charisma that he has, like, you can tell how excited the interviewers are to talk to him. And I don't think that that's just part of formality, you know, where that's like part of their job, so they have to like butter up the people that they're going to interview with to put them in a good mood, ask them some questions or whatever. But you can just tell that people were like, this is a fun movie, this is a fun role, and that his charm is very
palpable.
Yes, I was gonna say palpable, but I wasn't sure if that was gonna be like too stereotypical of a word. But it's like contagious, I guess, like infectious.
Yeah, you can definitely tell with Bobby Wygant, our OG press junket lady, who I'm like developing a fondness like Lil Raj. So.
Was there Bobby Wygant corner?
Yes. But, immediately she's like, oh, great picture, and like just so excited. Even with Independence Day, she starts off, she's like, oh, this is going to be the movie of the year. Like, I'm letting you know, I'm already, if I could bet, I would bet on it. And like,
she's like your grandma that believes in you so much and just loves everything that you do and is like so proud of you.
yeah,
Even for like the littlest things.
she seems like a sweet press junket person to sit
A
with.
fun interviewer. Yeah.
But he was on Leno and David Letterman, but there are moments where they're like, especially Leno, where they're trying to kind of say like certain stuff, like baity, like, stuff to get him to say something. And he's very good at being like funny, but also pivoting and redirecting or taking like, or yeah, redirecting and taking the conversation kind of in another direction. Because I feel like I can't remember, but I feel like Leno said something about like rap or something, and he was just like, oh yeah, blah blah, blah. And too, like, in terms of like them talking about like his performance and the movie and that kind of stuff, it's not like I noticed with JLo when we would watch her male co-stars get interviewed, sometimes like they wouldn't talk about the movie at all really that much. And I feel like at this point it's more so about his career and like them being like, oh wow, you have all these movies or these big movies, and kind of being surprised at his success and stuff like that. He does talk about Steven Spielberg calling him, and I think that was on Letterman. And so he was like, I thought somebody was, playing with me. Like, I'm on the phone in my drawers and like talking to Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And then Steven Spielberg sent like a helicopter to pick him up and take him to his Hamptons house and, talk to him. So crazy movie star moments like that. But I feel like you didn't really miss anything. There wasn't anything too poignant about like the movie and the role and the process. A lot of it's the same. It's cool working with Tommy Lee. It's cool to do like this big movie. He does also talk about how he was hesitant to do Men in Black after Independence Day because it's an alien movie. And he was like, yeah, and he was like, I didn't want to get like, pigeonholed and like, oh, he's the alien movie guy, and like, oh, we have another alien movie, call Will. Like, but he really liked the script. And Jada Pinkett Smith, who was just his girlfriend at the time, but talked him into it. So for all the things everyone thinks she does negatively, maybe we wouldn't have Men in Black without her. Well, we wouldn't have Will Smith in Men in Black without her. And then in Newsweek, in the cover story they had, he also talks about this later in his book, but I'm surprised this was in Newsweek. He talks about how he looks for trends with movies. And so he looked at like the top 10 movies of all time, and 7 of the top 10 had creatures in them. E.T., Jurassic Park, Close Encounters, Jaws. So it was like, I want to make movies that have creatures. And it's very obvious to me, like, this is what he needed to do to be successful. And then he also talks about going to school. And I think this is important in terms of like talking about his comedy appeal and his crossover appeal. One of the reasons like we wanted to do Will, because he talks about going to like this all white school when he was growing up, and then going to school with like all black people. And I didn't go to an all white school, but like I definitely went to an all black school, and then like a more diverse school and more white people than I had ever seen before. I think that there's this duality that happens when you're in spaces like that, where it's like you're with like your culture most of the time, and then you wind up in spaces that are primarily white. And he talks about having this sense of like this comedic bridge, like racially, where it's like there's jokes that are directed at the white audience that black people aren't going to laugh at, and then there's jokes black people are laugh at that white people aren't going to laugh at. And so he says that he feels like he's pretty good at being able to find that middle part where we're all gonna laugh at something, and
Mm-hmm.
finding that bridge where the joke that is right in the center and is a red line belly laugh for everyone. And so I was like, you know what, that's really smart, and to talk about it like that, I think is really, I don't know, like I feel like before looking into Will and reading about him more, like you just feel like, yeah, he's like, he just has this appeal to him. But to see how much he's thought about like choosing these certain movies and like his career path, and even things about like, you know, jokes and appealing to like both audiences and stuff. Those are things that I feel like on the surface level, if you don't look into someone in their career, that you wouldn't know are choices that they're making, and, you know, things that they've observed and are actively like putting into their work. So I thought that was a interesting point from that interview or story. But
Mm-hmm.
that's all I've got for interview stuff. But I mean, we've kind of talked already about how this compares to like Independence Day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely different from Independence Day. Still has not so much like the seriousness is in it, but the you know, funny, quick lines. There's some improvised stuff. There's some, but this role is like a lot more comedic. I feel like his role in Independence Day started off on the funnier side, or at least when he had kind of gunned down that first alien ship and he's dragging it right across the salt flats, and then it becomes a little bit more serious as he's like, this is my duty and I'm gonna fight down these ships, and like I'm gonna be the hero of the story. Versus in Men in Black is Jay, his Will Smith's character just felt more like very consistently funny. There was not like a major like change or character arc for me, but I didn't really feel like this story needed that. I don't think that there needed to be any like major shifts or changes, besides the fact that he like learns more about this alien world and is like invested in the MIB program. And what I liked about his character too is that he was a little bit sentimental. And so every time they would go to neuralize someone, which is the iconic, looks like a silver like clicky pen, but it has this red flash, and that makes you forget your memories, which the physics of that I do question, because it's like, well, how much of your memory is there something in the neuralizer that allows
Oh yeah, there's
you...
dials on it, because
Okay.
at the end when he neuralizes K, when K gives it to him, he's like days, months, years, and so there's
Mhm.
3 knobs that control like the how
Right.
much, and I think probably like hours or something. So like, boom, you need to forget the past like 2 hours. Like,
True. I did forget about that part. So never mind. Don't really have much question about it. But it's a fun tool and an interesting one to think about. I feel like you could ask that at a really good dinner party question of like, if you had to neuralize, like what is there a year, an hour that you would like wish to forget of your life? But anyways, when he first starts to shadow Agent K and they're neuralizing people, he's like, hey, as K's reading back to them, they're like, oh, this is just a light reflection from Mars, and Edgar ran away with another woman, or blah blah blah, and you're gonna go find someone else. Will Smith was like, hey, let's give these people some like happier memories. It doesn't have to be all this like sad and sad background stories. So I appreciated that.
yeah, I really liked when the first lady, well, the wife of the guy that did Vincent Deonafrio is taking over his body. When they go see her and they neuralize her, I really like that he's like, hey, you know what? No, she left him. You kicked him out.
Yeah.
And
Go
live in
Bloomingdale's.
Yeah, get you some dresses, and then the line about like, you know what, get an interior decorated in here, because wow. Like, I think that level of like Tommy Lee Jones again is so like deadpan and straight and serious, and that level of relatability, you know, really helps offset the seriousness of Kay. And I think that's funny. And then even with the coroner where he's like, man, you keep neuralizing her, she's gonna like get leukemia or some shit. Like, can you not do it so much, or like wait till we absolutely need to do it? Because Kay is just like, phew, and then like doing it again. And I feel like that's also like kind of the dead comedy of Tom Lee Jones's character, where he's just, you know, I'm so experienced in what I'm just gonna do it, or even giving him like that tiny little gun, and he's like, no, like I want, like, why can't I get one of these other guns? Like, you get this and I get this little tiny thing. Those little moments where their chemistry plays off each other in a really relatable way, because I think all of us, if we were Jay in that situation, be like, what the fuck? Like, why do I just get this like little pew pew gun and you get like this nice sized weapon? And I also think the end sequence of the fight with the alien, also it is in his wheelhouse of, you know, distracting him and talking smack to him and stuff. Like, I can't imagine someone like Keanu like in those parts. Or
right, Tommy Lee is very like non-reactive, right? And I think that that's his kind of general acting style, if I do say so myself, that he's just very like, I'm gonna wait for you to deliver my line, and I'm just gonna, or your line, and I'm gonna be very like serious about it. I'm gonna listen and absorb it, and then I'm just gonna deliver my part as is, but it doesn't feel clunky. Versus Will Smith is the more reactory kind of person who's going to want to have something to say about each scene, and or you know, each part of the movie, and these like little moments. And Tommy Lee's just kind of like, the FBI doesn't have a sense of humor, not that I'm aware of anyways. Like, let's just keep it like, that was funny.
Or like when they're in the car and they finally press the red button, and so Tommy Lee multiple times have been like, hey, you might want to put a seatbelt on. And like this time they like go upside down in this tunnel. And so Will's just like in the, like he's fallen on the roof of the car. And so he's like against the glass. And then at some point his back is to the window and he's like crouched on the ceiling. And like those physical comedy reactory moments where it's just like, that's what he does best, and like it's hard to imagine anyone else in that role to play off of Tommy Lee's just like still driving, and the fact that he's so like just, you know, focused, whereas like even if I was supposed to be like the mature serious one, I'd be like kind of dying laughing at like this idiot upside down in the car. Like so yeah, those moments are just, again.
Could you find any blooper reels of this? I'm sure they exist.
I didn't find bloopers. I did find like deleted and extended scenes, which were just, they were scenes that were in the movie, but like they cut an extra part of it. I'm sure there's bloopers. Also, the DVD is like one of those DVDs that has like all these extra packed bonus features in them. So I'm kind of jealous that I don't have it or didn't get it. And like, I feel like that's kind of stuff should still be available online. Like if you rent it from somewhere or can stream it from somewhere, I feel like they should include the DVD extras. Like, we're missing out on stuff. Because there was like a cool feature, I guess, where you could see like the storyboards. There's a cool feature where you could see, or I guess you could change or alter something with like the characters and stuff, the aliens. And then obviously there's like director commentary. I think Tommy Lee Jones does commentary. And it's like, you don't just get that stuff anymore. Like, and I guess that's why people still buy physical copies of stuff sometimes. But it would be nice to have it somewhere online too, besides just YouTube.
And the only reason why I ask is because I think it would be so interesting to see a person like Tommy Lee Jones break character and laugh, because I feel like he's not someone who would be well known for like cracking up in a scene. Yeah. But as you had said, like the part when they're driving and Will Smith's, you know, doing more physical comedy and stuff, you would have to think that Tommy Lee would have laughed at some point. Or Will Smith was like, I'm gonna make it my mission to like make this guy laugh at some point.
Yeah. Or like even Will like breaking character, or like, you know,
Right.
he falls, or like, you know, hits himself too hard or something like that. Like those moments where are funny too, where even the physical person is just like, okay, this is too much. Like and on IMDb it is noted that like Tommy Lee Jones didn't mind being covered in like slime and the goop and stuff, but Will hated it. So it would have
Okay.
been interesting to see like maybe them covered in slime and like, you know, cut, and then Will's like, oh my god, like somebody get this off of me, or like, you know, being reactive to not feeling the slime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish there was more of that available. There's also lots of info about practical magic and effects. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, there's a whole YouTube video out there, and it's about 25 minutes long, but it's narrated and voiced over, and also appeared by the person who helped make some of the really infamous props on there, and like more of the weapons and stuff. But it was so cool to see. And there's also a 45-minute making of Men in Black, which might have been ripped from like the DVD, on YouTube as well. And that's a really cool kind of behind the scenes, almost like a making of the video, where you see some cool practical effects of how the prop makers had made some stuff.
I feel like that one, the making of Men in Black one, is like some weird, not weird, but some kind of TV special, because there's like these scenes. If we're thinking about the same one, there's like these kind of like studio scenes where you have like the host, you know, being like, oh, we went behind the scenes and talked to so and so, or we went to the premiere,
right?
And they're Australian. So I was like, oh, is this like some Australian like Men in Black special?
Maybe it's Aussie promo, yeah.
Because again, that's like another marketing tool that I feel like we've lost a little bit of magic from, is like these, oh, we go behind the scenes for the next big movie, whatever, that would get you hyped to see this movie, because you get to see like, oh, how they made it, and special interviews and stuff, and on set stuff with the cast. And so that was cool to watch. And then it was like funny to see like the premiere and all the fans, just the fanfare of like the premiere and the after party of like, it looked like they had these cool like
some cool hip celebs with very thin eyebrows holding up prop toy guns. It's kind of wild to like go back and look at it.
Yeah, and they had like cool themed drinks. Like they had this pink drink and like a martini glass and a green drink. So like stuff like that. But this is all just for the premiere of this movie in Australia.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what they did in the United States. But the practical magic here, like we have the creatures that were designed for this movie, the aliens were designed by Rick Baker, who's like super infamous. Oh, also the score is by Danny Elfman, Nightmare Before Christmas fame.
Yes.
I thought that was pretty iconic, the intro to the movie with like the dragonfly and the music. I was like, why does this sound vaguely like familiar?
Danny Elfman does, all of Tim Burton's music.
But so Rick Baker designed the aliens, and then Industrial Light and Magic, Bay Area, did a lot of the CGI special effects. And it's just, I watched Face Off all the time in college, and it's just always cool to see like that part of the behind the scenes stuff of like them designing characters and the makeup. Vincent Deonafrio had to spend 6.5 hours in makeup to become that character. And it's crazy because part of me, like, I knew that was him, but then part of him just looks like a oddly featured man, you know?
Yeah.
So part of me was like, I don't, like, is this just how this actor looks? Or is this... And then I was like, no, this is the dude from The Cell. And I had to be sure, like, okay, yeah, he's playing this alien person. And I was like, damn, like, how did they, like, his face just looks, it looks human, but it looks off kiltered and like like he's wearing a skin suit. So like that makeup.
Exactly. It gives that reference of someone who is unhuman like playing a human, that he was able to capture that like unnatural movement of like, I'm a being playing a human, and this is how I think that they like walk and act and talk.
Yeah, that makeup is just so good. And then even the
And
aliens.
creepy. Yeah, and he like looked like he was decaying after a certain point, right?
Yeah.
Like his fingers were all purpley at the end, and I'll never forget that scene, the sugar water scene, like when he first gets body snatched, was like ingrained in my mind forever. That was the scene that stuck out to me the most as a kid, just watching this man like, sugar, more, and then just like grossly drinking this thing, and his wife's just like, your skin is like sagging off, and he goes, "Oh, is that better?" And tightens it up and gives himself a little facelift, which again, all prosthetics, all real stuff. It's impressive.
Yeah, and then the magnitude of, a lot of alien movies, you create like one species of alien, but like in this, there's so many different aliens from all over the galaxy and wherever. So Rick Baker talked about like the process for that, where, and he had to get his designs cleared by both Barry and Steven Spielberg. So it's like, Barry likes this, but Steven Spielberg likes this body. So can you combine them? And like, that process of creating. And it looks like they won an Academy Award for Best Makeup and Hair for this. So that's great. And they won some other awards. Will Smith won a Blockbuster award for favorite actor, and MTV Movie Award for Best Fight, Kids Choice Award for favorite actor. They won Saturn Awards for Best Sci-Fi Film, Best Music. Vincent Deonafrio won a Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actor. Okay, I'm glad he got his props there. Yeah, the practical effects are so cool. You said there's some CGI in here that didn't hold up. What?
So like the scene where they pull over that couple who's trying to like light jump out, and she's giving birth to the tentacle baby. Now, once the tentacle baby has been birthed, that's like a real physical thing that Will Smith's holding.
Yeah.
But when she's giving birth, her like alien tentacles come out and grab him and kind of wave him around in the car as Tommy Lee Jones is having this very casual conversation with her husband. And I was kind of chuckling. I'm like, oh cool, like you made him miss the birth of his child. That's nice. But that didn't really stand up. Like, that looked a little clunky. The alien in the beginning who was kind of crossing the border in some, like, the faraway shots was CGI'd and looked a little wonky, but the close-up shots were legit. And there were some other aliens, whether they were inside the, like, MIB headquarters, but you can clearly, I think it was like this big kind of clear, brownish, sluggish looking character where you can almost see the person inside moving it, but it was distorted, almost like shower glass. That's like that clouded thing where you can't really fully see a person behind it on the other side. There were the little tiny CGI'd ones that were like hanging out in the coffee room.
I love those little fuckers. They're so iconic.
Reminded me a lot of, and speaking of like Amblin Entertainments, we know that Spielberg is always in cahoots with George Lucas, who is one of the like known confirmed aliens on the celebrity list. But like those kind of reminded me of some precursor Phantom Menace shit, at least in their dialect and the way that they talked. I was like getting very Jar Jar Binks vibes from it.
Yeah.
But there's also a pug that also happens to be an alien. We know that the entertainment company had to apologize over and over, not apologize, but like have a disclaimer that no animals whatsoever were harmed in the making, because the scene where they're kind of like shaking the pug to get more information from like far away kind of looks like they're kind of really like jostling around this little puppy pug.
That pug is also iconic. Like, I feel like I'm not a huge sci-fi person, so sorry to the sci-fi fans, but I do feel like Men in Black has really iconic aliens. Like,
Yeah.
the pug, and it's just a dog, but like he's in the other movies. The little
He's not
guys
Johnny
in the
Knoxville, is he?
I think like in like the one of the sequels, is he?
Johnny Knoxville's in Men in Black 2 for sure, and 3. But I can't
Is he?
remember if he was the pug.
I can't either, but him, the little dudes in the break room, they're in all the movies because they work at headquarters. And yeah, it's just the iconicness of these aliens are just so impressionable sometimes.
And no, Johnny Knoxville is not the pug. He plays a character named Scrat, and he basically has like 2 heads of himself.
Yes, I remember that visual now. But and then, you know, later on, because these movies are successful, there are some other notable like faces and cameos from people.
Yes. Oh yeah, David Cross was like the receptionist or like the front office
at the
desk
corner,
at the coroner's office. I was like, oh, Tobias Bluth.
Any other?
Oh, the alien shooting simulator. When Will is at the job, when you make the opening remark of, was it Tina?
Yeah.
In the
the little girl.
The quantum physics books, and they're like, tell me why you decided to shoot little Tina. That reminded me of like Astro Blasters or any kind of like carnival style ride that you would
or like
see.
laser tag.
Yes, I wonder if they made that not with the intentions, but I wonder it probably would have been obviously at Universal Studios if that was ever in the works to making like a Men in Black interactive alien ride.
Man, they should have made a Men in Black ride, but I know they had Men in Black merch everywhere because when I was looking up toys, some of the toys were like from Universal Studios, and I was like, oh wow, I never realized like they had Men in Black as a licensed franchise, whatever. So I'm kind of disappointed that because Men in Black is still like they just made that other one. Like it's been pretty consistent. So I'm surprised they didn't make that into some kind of ride before.
I see a screen grab of a Universal store of the MIB gear shop that has like your tuxedo, like black suit t-shirts with some alien spritz on it, and then like or like a neuralizer in your pocket. They had the tiny gun and the neuralizer as well. They had MIB t-shirts. They had a shirt with the pug on it. Damn, that's cool.
It looks like, okay, so it looks like there is or was a ride in Florida for Men in Black.
Oh my god, I have to do, okay, for next episode, for when we get to Men in Black 2, don't forget, we should try.
That's going to be your pop culture.
Yeah, like a ride through of it. Because you know someone with a camcorder took a video of it and it's there somewhere.
Well, when I went to Florida, I don't remember seeing the ride. So I'm curious, like, what happened to it.
If that turned into, like, the Spider-Man ride or it wouldn't have turned into the Mummy ride so quick.
They still have Men in Black stuff in Florida, apparently, because...
Oh, shit.
At least on Universal Orlando website, they still have a MIB gear shop.
Oh my god, I did nothing for the research. Oh, man, my research for this show was lacking because there is on YouTube Magic City Mayhem on YouTube did a tour the store Men in Black gear shop, and this premiered January 27th, 2021. So I think it's still there.
Well, hey. We just have more to talk about next time. So,
golly, we sure do.
I do have a question for you.
I have a few questions for you too, but go ahead.
Because obviously we talked about toys and whatnot, but like I was like, you know what? I'm not into movie props, but I know there are tons of people who are and collect them or collect like replicas of weapons and such from movie props. And I was just curious if you could have anything from this movie, like prop wise or anything, like what would you pick?
Like if Spielberg let me tour the set and was like, you can take one thing.
Sure, yeah.
That's so tough. Oh, I mean, neuralizers like the classic thing. I would love a jar of the purple alien goos and have it be like gack. I'm like thinking that it's the same texture and consistency as gack. I don't know. Maybe just for like originality's sake, I'll say the little charm that the cat wore on its collar that had the galaxy in it.
There is one of those on Etsy, so
I'm sure
very
there is.
doable.
What about you?
Well, I obviously watching was like, I kind of want a neuralizer toy or something, but I really liked the guns, and like I know there's toy guns, but like the little cricket gun I feel like would be cool to have like in a little display case or something. Would be like
I do have some would you rathers though for this movie.
oh Lord. Okay.
Bria, question number 1. Would you rather drink a full-sized drinking glass cup of sugar water or have purple alien goo explode all over your face?
Is it like movie prop goo, or are we talking like hypothetical real alien goo?
Let's go movie prop goo, but it's not going to be like a pistachio pudding like slime is.
Oh, man. To fulfill my lifelong dream of getting slimed, I guess would be my choice. Even if it doesn't taste great. But I feel like most of those things do taste fine because it's usually like corn syrup and
It's like
a bunch of other
jelly,
shit. Yeah.
essentially. Yes.
So,
Okay, good question. Good answer. I think I would go. If it was full-fledged C&H sugar, then I think I'm also going alien goo.
I also feel like this is kind of cultural because I feel like all Kool-Aid is sugar water and some flavor. So Black people notoriously like, heavy on the sugar on the Kool-Aid. So that's just like another, thirsty day at home.
Okay. Would you rather deliver an alien baby, but maybe let's just for the sake of not being hypothetical, would you rather deliver a baby or eat one pierogi with a cockroach?
Deliver a baby? Like what no. Roaches are like the worst bugs. They just have such a bad rap. Yeah. Like
they've been around for millions of years. They're the worst. And they just lit.
And bless Vincent Deonafrio for like being able to like act and like have them crawl out of his sleeve and whatnot. Like, I could not. Like, I don't think there's $1 million in there for me for that.
Yeah. Bria, on the list of celebrities who were confirmed aliens, we had Al Roker, Isaac Mizrahi, Danny DeVito. Barry Sonnefield was also on there. Chloe Sonnefield, which is his daughter. Sylvester Stallone, Dionne Warwick, Newt Gingrich, Anthony Robbins, George Lucas, and Steven Spielberg were amongst the people who were confirmed aliens. If you were to make your own little modern day list of celebs, who do you think? Like, just pick 3 to 5 celebs that you're like, could probably be an alien.
Pete Davidson.
Yes. He's also on my list.
Who else? I'm just thinking of like Pete Davidson, Machine Gun Kelly, Travis Barker. No,
I said Travis Barker too.
Basically the Kardashian dating pool right now. Kanye West. Kanye would explain a lot if he was an alien. So I'll go Pete Davidson, Kanye West, and we need somebody. Let me pick like a lady. Bjork.
Oh yes, I'm just here showing up in my little swan dress.
Yeah, those are my picks. Do you have a list?
So some of mine cross-sectionalized with yours. I definitely thought, like, as I posed this question, I thought Pete Davidson and Travis Barker for sure. But then I was like, then I might as well just say the whole damn Kardashian family. But that's giving them too much credit, which I don't want to do. So I would say, in addition to Pete and Travis, I would do Steve Buscemi, who just looks alien-like, looks like an alien wearing a wrinkly man suit.
Hey, kids.
Hello, young fellows. Yeah, I'm thinking of that meme. I would choose Meryl Streep because she's like your unlikely alien. For singers, if I'm going to do that, I would say maybe Ariana Grande because her pitch frequency, she sings at such a high pitch that every time she hits those high notes, it sends like a beam of signal up to her aliens in outer space.
You know who else? John Voight.
Anaconda skin.
I mean, that just makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good.
I would also say Jeff Goldblum. He's just in a league of his own. He's weird and quirky.
He was an alien in Earth Girls Are Easy. That's my favorite Jeff Goldblum movie.
Oh, look at you.
Well, I haven't watched a lot of his movies, but that's a movie I would always watch on TV.
Yeah, he's been in some good sci-fi shit, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll add him to the list for season 3. Just toss his name in there.
Suspicious, yeah. And then finally, do we think this movie holds up today? And we know this is a franchise, so I feel like the question of being remade is like not really applicable. But do we think that this franchise still has some gas in the tank in the spaceship?
I do, because we are going to get Men in Black 2 in 2002 and an anticipated Men in Black 3 in 2012.
What's that, 5 years apart?
5
and then 10?
Yes.
Damn.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like for nostalgic sake, a lot of people were maybe not more excited, but we're kind of like, ooh, a little excited about Men in Black 3 because it has the original cast, but it's like setting up this next generation in the story. But even, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it, but Men in Black 3 clearly had like lost its edge at that point. But then the franchise continues in 2019 with an entirely like new cast, but like similar premise and setup and outfits and all that shit. So I think, yes, for that reason, it holds its own in today's standards because otherwise they wouldn't have remade it or like rebranded it. I think that a lot of the practical effects do hold up. I mean, there's definitely some parts where the like aging of this movie gives itself away a little bit. But overall, I didn't find a lot of problematic things in there, as we're going to see in a couple weeks when we get to Wild Wild West, which is that talk about a movie where you're gonna have to buckle your fucking seatbelts, everybody. I mean, that's a cult classic of its own. But I think overall, yeah, this movie could be remade again and do fine.
Yeah, I obviously probably agree. I think the beauty of the practical effects in this era is that they did a good mix of like puppetry, of people in makeup, and CGI. It's not just CGI. I think if it was just CGI, there would be more moments that didn't hold up that well. You know, that just goes to show, I feel like there needs to be a balance with practical effects. I feel like sometimes these completely CGI'd movies, you know, get a little bit like one note and exhausting and not so interesting because we all kind of know, like, the magic's gone. We all kind of know what's happening now. And so I feel like when you mix in, you know, actual props, actual puppets, actual people in makeup, or even actual sets and stuff like that, you get a more nuanced feel in a movie than just like, okay, yeah, that's all green screen, or, you know, that's not actually a real place or there or anything like that. So I too agree, obviously, that they brought it back, tried to reboot it in a sense. I did not, though, feel compelled to go see 3 or International.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely like by that time of the age where I could have gone to see the movies by myself. So I feel like there's something that, I don't know if it's marketing or something, but there's something missing pool wise to be like the interest in there. And I don't know what it needs to do for, and maybe me just watching all of them eventually because of this will make me more like, hey, I would totally go see another one now. But I feel like casually I was just like, oh, they're making another Men in Black. Oh yeah, of course. And okay, whatever. I'd be curious to think about that more in terms of like, because we all know how I feel about Fast and the Furious, and there's so many of those fuckers. It's just like, to know that there's like only 4 Men in Black, it's kind of wild. And then I know for Will, you know, he obviously was doing other stuff too, so he couldn't always, you know, commit himself to continuing his franchises, because even Bad Boys 2 and Bad Boys for Life have these huge gaps in between them.
Yes.
So I think he kind of regrets some of the Men in Black movies, but he's notorious for, at least with Bad Boys, being like, the script has to be right. Like, I'm not going to do a sequel just to do a sequel. Like, it has to work. So yeah, I'm curious to see, like, if maybe we'll get another international, or maybe like a 4 with Will, or, you know.
I doubt it, but
Yeah.
yeah. But in that sense, I still think that like to do the international, it's not even a series, but the 4th installment of it felt like that similar ploy of, hey, millennials, remember this movie you loved so much watching as a kid? You want to see this reboot of it? And
Yeah.
people are like, not really, but I'll go see it, you know?
Yeah, it's very, even Independence Day, the sequel for that, it's very in that vein. And finally, do you have a movie, spread, and cocktail?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Snack, I'm either going with 3 of the following, but not in combination. I will go pierogi, because after watching that scene, even with the cockroaches on it, those sent me back to a time when we used to eat those quite often. So I would love to, it like kind of inspired me to be like, oh shit, next time I'm at Safeway, like, maybe I'll go peruse their pierogi.
Or maybe you'll learn how to make them from scratch.
You know, I would assume it's a simple dumpling dough with like mashed potatoes, cheese, and some onion. So
American.
I know. But it's like a Polish dish, I think.
Huh.
But or I would go like classic New York hot dog, or like some big pretzel of some kind. Now, the cocktail that I have is one that I did look up. If I wasn't being a persnippety looker-upper, I would just do like a sugar gin and tonic. So like a gin and tonic with like a couple tablespoons of sugar in there for some sugar water. But I did look up a cocktail for this. It is called the Alien Secretion. We did quite... There are quite a few times where we see some alien secretions in this movie, whether it be goo or slime or snot, or, you know, aliens being exploded into these tiny little bits and pieces. And the cocktail is very simple. It is aesthetically a hot lime green in color, kind of like what this Etch-a-Sketch marker would be.
Oh, I'm looking at it.
It is Malibu, coconut rum, Midori, melon liqueur, and pineapple juice. You can garnish it with a slice of pineapple and a maraschino cherry. There's iterations of the cocktail where you can make a green alien cocktail of similar ingredients: lemon juice, the Midori lemon liqueur, lime juice, soda water, and Sprite. So these are flavor profiles that are right up my alley. So I would definitely make this.
Wow. Well, per usual, I am not as prepared as you, but food-wise, I was thinking hot dog, because at the end, they're at like the classic New York hot dog stand. But I did order pizza after I watched Men in Black, so a New York slice of pizza too would hit well. And then Drink wise, initially I was thinking, obviously, I feel like Alien, it has to be like green. So I'm thinking like a green slushy, and then like some kind of like blue goopy kind of syrup inside the cup to line it to give
Some
like
like blue raz sauce on the side.
yeah, something like that. And then I totally would love a souvenir cup of some kind. I know on the Universal website, it looked like they sell those like really tall green alien cups that were like everywhere in our youth, with like the long straw.
Like the ones you would see at like a bowling alley, like for tickets.
Yeah, like that.
Yes.
So you could put it in that cup, but I think like a cool Men in Black inspired cup would be cool. I don't know what it looks like, or like some kind of flying saucer cup. I don't know. It needs to be cool and with lights. Definitely throw a
Yes.
glow cube in that bitch. But
Ooh, yeah.
in looking up your drink, just for visual reference, there's also a drink that's called the Alien Brain Hemorrhage. And
Ooh.
it's like a little shot. So it's peach schnapps, Bailey's cream. So it's like one of those drinks where you pour it and then slowly on top the cream sits. So then when you
okay.
pour the blue curacao and the grenadine syrup, it like goes through the cream and it makes like kind of these like stringy looking
Like those toys that you would flip upside down with like the goo bubbles that would like kind of like
Yeah.
slowly drip down.
well, kind of it just looks more like, I don't know, you should look it up. I don't know how to describe it. It kind of looks like a foam kind of like mushroom cloud in a glass experience.
Oh.
Okay,
Oh,
no.
no, it looks so unappetizing, but I see the appeal of it. Oh, that has to be so sweet, I bet. Wow.
I was not
the peach
expecting
schnapps.
that reaction.
It just visually looks fucking gross. Like it looks like a brain. The way that the clouded Baileys is sitting on top of that syrup looks like a chunk of flesh that's there. So visually disgusting. So count me in, baby. We're there. Let's do this. Next time we get together, Bria, we're gonna make one of these. Screw the pickleback shots that we took for Marry Me. We're making the hemorrhage shots.
Okay, I'll bring the Baileys and the blue curacao.
Okay, I've got grenadine and I'll get some schnapps. We have peppermint schnapps, but not peach.
Oh, also, I would just love to note that the end credits, we obviously get the banger, the smash, the Grammy Award winning song Men in Black by Will Smith. And
It's the MIBs.
And in the vein of Mike Lowry from Bad Boys, I wrote, now that's how you do a end credit song.
Not bum 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 diddle-diddle-diddle.
I would never forgive Jennifer Lopez for that, or the studio who was just like, oh, you have a single, let's throw it in there. But
That makes no sense to the movie.
I did listen to some of the soundtrack, and the rest of the soundtrack doesn't really go with the movie. But there's some bangers on there. Genuine's on there. Nas is on there. A very young, unknown Alicia Keys is on there, which blew my mind. But Destiny's Child is on there, and I was like, I didn't know this song was on this soundtrack at all. But okay, it doesn't go with the movie. But
Song.
Killing Time, which is on their very first album.
Yeah.
But I was just like, how did I not know this was on this soundtrack? But yeah. And so on that note, I think we should neuralize everybody. Forget this episode exists. But do come back.
Yes.
All right, so thank you again for listening to this week's episode, and to the people who haven't been neuralized and who have stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the NIS Division 6 version of Inside the Actors Studio that does not exist.
But seriously, if your memories are not wiped and you like us enough to stick around, take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole with us as we discuss Will Smith in the 1998 political thriller Enemy of the State.
And on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I'm Simone. Please subscribe to This Blessed Mess. Leave us a like if you are into it. And like I mentioned, we are going to be on the Everything 90s podcast. We do a special episode where we talk about 90s versus 2000s toys. So if you liked our little toy segment, you can go over on your little podcast, Appies, and take a look at that episode.
And I'm Bria, and it would be awesome for you to wipe off those slimy alien fingers and give us a review. Follow us at Roll Call Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube now. And also, maybe buy some merch on our Redbubble, which, the link is in bio. And this has been another episode of
Roll Call and Cut.
Now make your neck work. Now freeze.
Excuse me, we did see quite a bit of alien secretion in this movie, whether it be purple goo or like...
Are you gonna keep that in?
The burp?
It was so, there's no way you could edit that out.
Do you want me to edit it out?
I mean, I'm asking you because it's your burp. So
I can keep it